So, before we go any further into our writing work, I want to go back and do what I talked about in our themes and motifs unit. I had mentioned in our themes unit that one of the things that I've learned through my experience is that you've got to constantly go back and relearn the foundational elements of something that you want to be good at. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to go back. We're going to talk about the foundations of the English language so that when we work on our writing and our editing, you know what the pieces are of the larger whole that you're working with. When we try to communicate, we want to constantly think about the going back and forth between the words that we use to capture the ideas that we're trying to communicate, and then how those words become sentences, how those sentences become paragraphs, and how those paragraphs become any other form that you want. So the first thing that we're going to talk about are the basic parts of a sentence. So words are what we pour our ideas into. They are containers and vessels for meaning to carry and communicate. So these basic building blocks are important to understand. You've got nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and prepositions. So first, nouns. We all know this is people, place, things, and ideas. All the main things, right? The nouns are usually going to be what the person focuses on and starts to build their idea of what you're trying to say. Verbs are our action words. All right. You'll hear me harp about these all the time. In your writing, I want descriptive detail. I want you to lean into describing your subject or whatever your setting or your ideas. I want you to describe everything in as much minute and descriptive detail as possible. Next, to describe verbs or adjectives, you use adverbs. Usually end in ly, but not always. There can be adjectives that end in ly. There can be adverbs that do not. They can describe the way that something is done, or they can describe other adjectives. The hopelessly smelly cat brushed up against my brand new pants. Some people will debate whether or not adverbs are a good or useful thing, and that is up for each individual author to figure out. Basically, does it add to the ability to affect and influence your reader, to help them see exactly what it is that you want them to see as an author? If it helps, go for it. If it doesn't help, get rid of it. Next, we have prepositions, which show relationships. So the prepositions are just little words, or you can have the prepositional phrases. They are going to show relationships between the things that you're talking about, and again, add more description. That is what allows the reader to gain traction to seeing the words that you're putting into their heads exactly as you want them to see them. So now that we've talked about the words that are the basic building blocks of expression and communication using the English language, we want to start talking about the construction of groups of words, also known as clauses, into sentences, into paragraphs, and so on, into any form that we want to best communicate our meaning, share ideas, or even just to explore ideas using writing, or to analyze the writing of others. So in the construction of a sentence, we're going to talk about assembling the basic building blocks by which we communicate. We're going to talk about subjects, verbs, objects, independent clauses, and dependent clauses. So subjects are nouns. They're the main person, place, or thing in a sentence. Verbs are action words. Objects are words that receive the action of the verb. Now, clauses are just groups of words that you put together to make parts of a sentence. You have an independent clause, which is just a fancy way of saying a complete sentence, and a dependent clause, which is a group of words that needs to be attached to an independent clause in order to make sense. But first, let's just talk subjects, verbs, and objects. Most basic English sentences are constructed subject, verb, object. This is for simplicity and effectiveness. The subject, the main person, place, or thing in a sentence will usually come at the very beginning of the sentence. Why? Because you want that as an author to be the first thing that the reader starts to form in their head as you communicate the larger picture of what you're building for them. So the subject being right up front, that's where you start building, right? The person, place, or thing. The verb is what that person, place, or thing or idea does, right? You don't always need an object to have a complete sentence. The sentence, she ran, pronoun she, noun, subject, verb, ran. What did she do? She ran. That's a complete sentence. So an independent clause, which is just fancy terminology for complete sentence, needs a subject, a verb, and it has to be a complete thought. You don't necessarily need an object. Again, 3 things that you need. 2 words, 1 condition. Subject, verb, complete thought. So independent clauses are complete sentences. They're your foundations, and then you can build different types of sentences around them. You can connect a dependent clause to an independent clause and create a complex sentence. You can connect 2 independent clauses together with a common and coordinating conjunction and create a compound sentence. You can create complex compound sentences, but we'll look at all of that in the future. So the first thing we want to do is get used to identifying the different parts of a sentence. If you can quickly identify the different parts of a sentence that you're trying to analyze in a larger story or passage that you're trying to analyze, this can be a quick way to assess what's going on. You also want to consider this in your own writing as far as how are you strategically constructing your sentences to affect and influence the reader in a very particular way. Okay, to exercise identifying subjects, verbs, and objects, take a minute to copy these sentences down neatly into your notebook. I'll read them to you. Mr. Lynch rode a tiny bicycle while juggling 4 dictionaries and singing an Irish ditty. Leslie Badurgas ate 16 hamburgers in one sitting to become champion of the contest. After his dangerous experiments, Dr. Zimbardo evaded the police by hiding in a Walmart. Although known for dark tales, Edgar Allan Poe actually wrote stories in many different genres. Tinky Slick is an insanely popular singer-songwriter, though some people don't like her style. Elvis Presley, also known as the King, was a 7th-degree black belt in karate. Hi-ya! So, now, once you have those sentences written into your notebook, highlight the subject of each sentence. Okay, let's check to see if you highlighted the correct subjects. In our first sentence here, we've got Mr. Lynch. Mr. Lynch rode a tiny bicycle while juggling 4 dictionaries and singing an Irish ditty. What you really have to do is, number 1, look at the very beginning of the sentence. If we're just talking about an independent clause, just a complete sentence with no other attachments, you can generally find the subject at the beginning. Mr. Lynch, that's our subject, the main person in this sentence who is doing something. Once you know what the subject is, you can easily find the verb. But let's keep pushing through and find the rest of these subjects. So next sentence, Leslie Badurgas. Third sentence, Dr. Zimbardo. You see, this one is a little bit more complex because we have a dependent clause that comes before our independent clause. You're generally never going to find your main subject in a dependent clause, since it's dependent on the independent clause to make sense. Notice, though, it does come directly after the comma, which connects it to the pronoun of his. After his dangerous experiments, Dr. Zimbardo evaded the police by hiding in a Walmart. Next sentence, similarly, although known for dark tales, comma, that's our dependent clause. We have an independent clause that starts with the subject. Edgar Allan Poe actually wrote stories in many different genres. Next, Tinky Slick. Tinky Slick is, there's our subject and verb combination right at the beginning. And similarly, Elvis Presley right at the beginning is our subject. Now, verbs, action words. Now that you have the subjects highlighted, go ahead, take a minute and highlight the verbs in every sentence. Once you're ready, we'll check them out. Okay, first sentence, rode. Who rode the bike? Mr. Lynch rode the bike. So we can easily check for our subject if we know our verb. So if you know the verb is rode, who rode? Mr. Lynch rode. And similarly, you can flip that around. If you know that Mr. Lynch is the subject, the main person at the beginning of the sentence, you can easily say, well, what did Mr. Lynch do? He rode a tiny bicycle. Leslie Badurgas ate 16 hamburgers. What did she do? She ate. Dr. Zimbardo evaded. Edgar Allan Poe wrote. Tinky Slick is. Remember, as I said before, that we can sometimes forget that the verbs is or are to be, and that is the ultimate action, which is to exist. So Tinky Slick is, that is your verb. And Elvis Presley was the past tense. All right, objects. Not every sentence is going to have an object, but it is nice to be able to identify an object, which is what receives the action of the verb, so that you can see what's moving in the sentence. Take a second, see if you can look and find what is the object that receives the action of the verb in each sentence. When you're ready, continue. Okay, let's take a look. Mr. Lynch rode what? He rode a tiny bicycle. Leslie Badurgas ate what? She ate 16 hamburgers. Go, Leslie. Dr. Zimbardo, what are you doing? Who are you evading? The police. Edgar Allan Poe wrote what? He wrote stories. Tinky Slick is, what is she? What are you, Tinky? An insanely popular singer-songwriter. And Presley, the king, what's the king? A 7th degree black belt. Hi-ya. Those are our objects. All right, so as I said before, an independent clause is just a fancy way to say a complete sentence. And a complete sentence is just a group of words that has 3 elements within it. A subject, the main person, place, or thing that a sentence is about. A verb, the action of the subject, what the subject is doing. And it must be a complete thought. Does the sentence make sense on its own, or is more information expected from the audience or reader? So check here in these sentences for a subject, a verb, and a complete thought. Do we have an independent clause? Mr. Potato Head was a bucket of fun. So our subject is Mr. Potato Head. Our verb is was. And do we have a complete thought? Mr. Potato Head was a bucket of fun? Yes, we do. Number 2, Jane Little was actually very tall. Okay, that sentence makes sense on its own. It's a complete thought. Do I have a subject? Jane Little. Do I have a verb? Was. Yes, good to go. My dog stole the slice of pizza right out of my hands. Subject, my dog. Verb, stole. Object, the slice of pizza. Complete thought, my dog stole the slice of pizza right out of my hands. A slimy slug is slippery when slithering down the sidewalk. Subject, slimy slug. Verb, is. Complete thought, check. 600 cats showed up at my house on the last Tuesday in June. It's got everything you need in that sentence. It's got the subject, 600 cats. It's got the verb, showed up. We get some prepositional phrasing in there that situates everything nicely where we want it. Complete thought, beautiful. Mwah. Hop Hog was abducted by aliens on a cold winter night in the year 2024. So we are wondering, how can an entire town be abducted? But it's got a subject, it's got a verb, and it's got a complete thought. Okay, dependent clauses, just like the name implies, need something else. So they're a group of words that need to be attached to an independent clause to make sense. If I don't come back. Well, I don't come back would be an independent clause, but once you put that if there, it becomes a dependent clause. If I don't come back. So just imagine I walk up to you and I say, if I don't come back, and then I just walk away. If I don't come back, what? What'll happen? I'm expecting more information. That's a dependent clause. It cannot make sense on its own. So if you place that group of words, that clause, before an independent clause, you use a comma to connect it. If I don't come back, comma, you should send for help. If it's placed after the independent clause, the comma may not be necessary. Usually it'll just flow right through. You should send for help if I don't come back. So take these dependent clauses, write them down. But when you write them down, add an independent clause to anchor them to in a way that makes sense. Before turning to a life of crime, Mr. Potato Head was a bucket of fun. Until her terrible accident, Jane Little was actually very tall. My dog stole the slice of pizza right out of my hands, bringing me to tears. Unbeknownst to me, a slimy slug is slippering when slithering down the sidewalk. 600 cats just showed up at my house on the last Tuesday in June, each bringing a dead mouse as tribute. As weird as it sounds, Hopog was abducted by aliens on a cold winter night in the year 2024. Okay, for the first notebook exercise of this part, you are going to copy the clauses on the next 2 slides into your notebook, and then complete the following with those clauses. 1, add independent clauses to the dependent clauses. 2, add dependent clauses to the independent clauses. So it's your turn to do what we just did. All right, your dependent clauses are 1, before leaving for the last time. 2, although I have never actually eaten spaghetti. 3, despite never having done that before. 4, especially when I am not feeling well. 5, running from the police. 6, thinking it was going to be the last time. So your job now is to complete these with independent clauses connected in the right way. Next, you are going to add dependent clauses to these independent clauses. Number 1, the penguin stared at me menacingly. Number 2, Mr. Lynch fell down 3 sets of stairs while singing. Number 3, he loved eating only red potatoes. Number 4, they found a way to pass the squatting test. Number 5, Suzanne ate 70 blue Skittles. Number 6, beans are my favorite food. So you can add a dependent clause to either the beginning or the end of this sentence, but remember to punctuate correctly and try to make as much sense as possible while still having a little bit of fun. Go ahead. All right, Foundations of the English Language, Part 3. Construction of a sentence, 2 of 2. All right, assembling the basic building blocks by which we communicate. So this is where we get into the fun stuff. Building dependent clauses, complex sentences, compound sentences, coordinating conjunctions, the cringy acronym FANBOYS, which works, and complex compound sentences. So again, dependent clauses are a group of words that need to be attached to an independent clause to make sense, such as, if I don't come back. If placed before an independent clause, use a comma to connect the dependent clause to the independent clause. If I don't come back, you should send for help. If placed after an independent clause, the comma may not be necessary. You should send for help if I don't come back. To build a dependent clause, there's a few different ways, but the basic way is using a subordinating conjunction, such as if, because, as soon as, after, until, once, however, before, unless, when, whether, though, since, although, even though. There's too many to list them all, but any word or small group of words that kind of makes a complete thought not a complete thought anymore. So take a moment to write 3 dependent clauses using subordinating conjunctions. For example, if you want to use these starters. So to build a dependent clause, we're going to create a dangling modifier by using a verb in the present participle form ing. So there's another way to do this. Note that the subject of the ing verb must be the subject of the independent clause that follows or precedes it. Running away from Principal Knockwurst, I cackled like a loon as he gave chase. Thinking she was a duck, Lucy quacked at the teacher until she was given detention. So notice in both those examples, the subject, So the first sentence, I cackled, who cackled, whoever's running from Principal Knockwurst. In the second sentence, Lucy is the one who quacks, and Lucy is the one who thinks that she is a duck. And then in our final example, we switch it around a little bit, adding more information in a dependent clause in this form at the end of a sentence. Mr. Lynch once ate a rock, thinking it was a piece of delicious candy. So again, think about the ways that you put sentences together, adding information to the front or back of a complete sentence in a way that changes meaning, adds to meaning, elaborates on meaning, moves to a different idea. There's so many subtle movements that can happen when you start to use the combination of words, your syntax, your order of words, your diction, your choice of words, and then how you put all those words together. Remember that you are guiding your reader through understanding to understanding just by using words, just by forming your ideas and understanding into words to communicate those to others. And all they have is to put those words together to create the meaning that you've got to share or that you're passing along, right? As an author, when you start to take control of how you put information together, in what order, in what way, then that starts to affect how you influence the reader. And then you gain more control. You get more subtlety in your writing. Wonderful. Okay, a complex sentence is a sentence with one independent clause and one dependent clause. So to start, write two complex sentences using subordinating conjunctions, which we just discussed, and write two complex sentences using dangling modifiers. Go. Okay, moving on to compound sentences. A compound sentence is a sentence with two independent clauses connected with a comma and a coordinating conjunction. One of the 7 FANBOYS, FANBOYS. The coordinating conjunctions, those FANBOYS are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. So you basically take an independent clause, I am hungry, a coordinating conjunction that shows a causal relationship in this case, so. Independent clause 2, I will have some pizza. I am hungry, comma, so I will have some pizza. So by connecting these two thoughts, we get a causal relationship using so, the coordinating conjunction. I am hungry, so I will have some pizza. Getting the message across effectively. So each of these 7 FANBOYS, and there are only 7 coordinating conjunctions, unlike the much higher number of subordinating conjunctions, only 7 coordinating conjunctions held within the acronym FANBOYS, FANBOYS. And this is definitely something that I would suggest that you commit to memory. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. So for is like because, and combines two related sentences, nor is the negative of or, but shows a contrast, or links alternatives, yet is just a fancy way to say but, and so shows a causal relationship. So take one simple sentence and create 7 different sentences that show the different relationships that you can create using a coordinating conjunction in a compound sentence. For example, as we have it here, I am hungry, for I have not eaten in 10 minutes. So because I have not eaten in 10 minutes, I am hungry. Well, why don't you just say that? Because you can say it in so many different ways. What's the perfect way to say it for the context and specific reasons and situation that you're writing in? I am hungry, comma, and I am also thirsty. Just joining two simple things. I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. I am hungry, and I'm also thirsty. I am not hungry, nor am I thirsty. So here showing that I am neither hungry nor thirsty. I am hungry, but they won't let me eat. So here that contrast, I want to eat, I am hungry, but they will not let me. Terrible. I am hungry. Or maybe I'm just bored. So here, flipping it using the contrast to show a different relationship. I am hungry, yet I have 3 hours to go until lunch. So again, this is just a fancy way to say but and show contrast. I am hungry, so I will now eat 3 sandwiches. So causal relationship, why am I eating those 3 sandwiches? Because I'm hungry. You know it, always. Okay, so compound complex sentences simply put compound sentences and complex sentences pieces together. And that's the whole trick, right? Is that we're taking these modular pieces that we can form in different ways and create cool different strings of words and meaning. Whether or not you care, I am hungry, for I have not eaten in 10 minutes. I am hungry, and I am also thirsty, causing me to become distracted. Feeling sick, I am not hungry, nor am I thirsty. I'm hungry, but they won't let me eat, leaving me to starve. Though I already ate, I am hungry. Or maybe I'm just bored. As soon as I get to work, I am hungry. Yet I have 3 hours to go until lunch. Because I didn't eat this morning, I am hungry. So I will now eat 3 sandwiches. Okay, your turn. Write 4 original compound complex sentences. Have a little fun with it. Write whatever you want, whatever's on your mind, but form it into compound complex sentences. 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you're going to pass your sentences to someone next to you and have them check to make sure they are grammatically correct. Go.